Hello, so today I'm going to be working on an 820-2879 motherboard for a 2010 A1278 13-inch MacBook Pro. The problem with this board is that it did not recognize the charger. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be doing this video in real time. Honestly, I had a bit of a busy afternoon. And also my video equipment decided to start screwing up and doing weird things. I got these Magewell HDMI capture dongles because they allow me to capture raw video from here, and the reason I find it important to do that is because I don't want it to be compressed as it's going, because even with a good camera or a good microscope camera, when you start compressing it to crap, you can't really see the finer details. And anyway, yeah, for $300 for a capture device, I honestly preach to buy good equipment. I always preach to buy good equipment. And I really kind of got what I paid for, because one of these works amazingly well, and one of them drops all the time. So, yeah, I do plan on sending one of these back. Anyway, so here is the board. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a live video. I'm going to try to make up for the lack of it being a live video by taking the time to actually explain to you every cause. What I'm going to try to do to make it up to you is explain most of the causes for not seeing the charger and how you can easily try to find them on your own. And I'm also going to explain the troubleshooting process with this one, since it was a fairly simple one. So, first things first. Let me show you what it is we wound up replacing. Now, one of the unfortunate things is that with the current setup that I have, until I get a real computer to do it instead of a pile of crap, I'm not going to be able to view the microscope camera in real time, and since the microscope actually sees something different than what I see, I'm going to have to move this around because I don't know what you're actually seeing in the microscope, silly as that may seem. So this is the ISL 6259. This is the chip that creates 12 volts for the board and also controls charging. And this is the pile of crap, as you can see up here, that I had to do. I replaced this chip because the original one actually had a hole in it. Let's see if I can find it on the table. If I can't find it on the table, I will just try to grab it from the other video that I did before it froze, and see if I have a clip of that video. Yeah, I'll try to find it from the other video since I don't see the chip on the table. That thing's probably long gone out the door by now. But yeah, as you can see, this is what I wound up doing. Just make sure to move it around, just because I don't know what the actual part is that you can see. Still getting used to the video setup. But yeah, so I have this molybdenum wire in the middle here that you may see. See the molybdenum wire? That's the stuff that you use to fix Galaxies and get the screen off. So there was a trace that was destroyed, and that was going to a capacitor, and that end of that capacitor also goes to this resistor. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what these do. I'm not even looking at the schematic. I just saw that as soon as I removed this chip, by the way, as I said, the chip had a hole in it. As soon as I removed it, this entire thing came off with it, like the entire trace. And this chip deals with some high voltages, so when this chip dies internally, what you'll notice happens a lot of the time is that the pads actually get stuck to the board traces. It's not just solder anymore. It's stuck there, as if it's welded, because when it burns so badly. And there's, you could use heat in your soldering iron. There's no getting it off. That board trace is sodomized. And that's what this was. So, again, I've made no money using this wire to fix phones. I've made $0. I suck. I suck at glass-only repairs. I'm fucking worthless. But I have made a good amount of money using that wire on these machines. So that's pretty cool. See, I got it going to there, then that is meeting that resistor over there with a solder blob, and then I covered it all with this conformal coat. So I got this conformal coat overcoat pen from Allspec. It's called CircuitWorks CW3300G. That is CircuitWorks CW3300G. This thing is amazing. Let me put it on the camera right now so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is pretty much a pen that will allow you, after you squeeze it, to you press it and you squeeze it, and it lets out this green stuff on the board that insulates against anything happening. So not only does it help keep the components on the board and keep them from falling off in the case of any type of getting knocked around, but it also is an electrical insulator, so that, let's say I managed to drop my tweezers on that whole mess, it's not going to wind up shorting anything. Which is again, it's good when you're using that molybdenum wire, because that stuff is It is open, it's not shielded in any way, so you don't want to have that running around the board. You really don't want open traces that don't have anything coating them running around the board. It would be unprofessional to leave it that way. So that's what that is. Now, and this was a simple diagnosis. I came to this conclusion because, as I said, there was a hole, like literally a hole in the original chip, and that's no good. So that's why I chose to replace this. Now you do have. Now let me just show you that the thing works. As I've said with these videos, I do want to show you that what we do actually does work. So here's the machine. Here is an A1286 battery that I taped to it because I ran out of A1278 batteries. Very professional. So here, this battery was completely dead before, and now it works. Now if I plug the charger in and unplug the battery, you'll see that it still works. Before, it did not work off of the charger. By the way, the DC inboard on these machines, they're almost never bad. They really aren't. You know, when people come to you and say, "Can you replace my DC inboard because my charger doesn't work?" your response should not be, "Yes, that is X dollars." Your response should be, "We are going to see why your computer doesn't charge, and then we will give you a price." Because there's a thing with self-estimates. I mean, pretty much 99.9% of the people who come here saying, "This is what I want," replace my video cable, replace my, replace my motherboard battery. Every time they say what they want, it's not what they actually need. See, it's still on. So I unplugged the battery here. You can see, battery is unplugged. And it's still on with the charger, so what I did manage to actually work. Okay, let me turn it off. And so let's go show you what U7000 does. U7000, which is ISL 6259, does a lot of cool things. So let's go head over here. Get some focus, make sure I don't have any embarrassing windows open. I guess the only embarrassing thing here is the fact that I have started a laptop screen repair company, and this is the screen of my laptop. But what are you going to do? Alright, so the stuff that broke off is actually around here. Charger, CSON, this capacitor here broke off, and so did one of the resistors that looks like it's going to the battery line. Which then that resistor goes to Q7055, which opens up to the battery, which is actually pretty curious because this machine worked just fine off of the battery. It didn't work off of the charger. Again, small things. So what this chip does is it takes the 16, 18 volts from your charger, or 20 or whatever, depending on what kind of knockoff piece of crap that you bought off eBay, and that's the charger voltage. It goes through here, then it goes to this transistor, and then this transistor, and this transistor goes to ground. These two transistors open and closed based on the charger IC, and then it all gets put into this inductor. So what this does is it creates these little pulses. So it tells this and this to open to ground to create these little pulses of electricity from the 16, 18 volts of the charger, and then those pulses get converted into something that looks like saying 12 volts through L7030 over here. And this entire process isn't going to happen if this chip has a hole in it, and you're not going to get a green light. So after replacing this, I got a green light. And again, when I don't have a green light on this board, this is not the first thing that I look for. Don't think that this is the first thing you should look for. Again, this board was made easy because it had a hole on it. And this is one of the reasons that I discourage people working on their own boards before they send them here. Again, I really don't want to discourage you from making money. I don't. But if you're like 85%, 90% sure that you can't do it, and you try anyway, and let's say you replace something that you again, it's going to wind up in the bottom of the pile. I mean, I do first come, first serve for most repairs, but when it comes to difficult board repairs, I throw out the first come, first serve, and I do the first is the easiest, the pain in the ass is the last, because I don't take money unless I win. We take $0. If I spend 30, 40, 50 hours on one stupid problem and I don't win, we charge you $0. So if the problem is going to waste a lot of my time, it's going to keep me from doing other boards, I throw it to the bottom. Now, unfair as it may be, when I see that there's a hole on a chip, that says, "Hey, hi, problem is over here. Like, come to me, replace me. I'll make your life easy. Replace me." And when I see that, it makes it easy. But if you replace it and then I have to fuck around on my own for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes to figure out the problem, you're going to go closer to the bottom of the pile. And with the whole bottom of the pile rule, again, the ultrasonicing crowd with people that are, I don't know what you guys put in stuff, some of the shit that you send me, if you I swear to Christ, it's like a rocket fuel combined with ammonia, combined with Windex, combined with battery acid, and no water, and you just leave it in there for an hour. Like that's not going to do you any good. That's going to skull fuck your board. That's going to rip apart everything other than what was originally broken. I digress. This is not supposed to be a rant video. This is supposed to be a teaching video. So yeah, so that is what I replaced, and you can see what it looks like in the microscope here. Again, it is a conformal coated cluster of fuck. And again, that molybdenum wire really comes in handy. It's much sturdier. It's much sturdier than the wire that you're going to get from cutting up LVDS cables. And now you can get a thicker wire if you use the entire of one of the strands of an LVDS, one of the wires inside of an LVDS cable. But that stuff, then it gets to be too thick. And when it's too thick, what happens is it winds up ripping pads off of the board. Let's say you move the wire a little bit, it's going to actually, rip the pad off. So let's say you move it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it's pulling on this little pad that's barely held in with this crappy little glue. It's going to wind up ripping it off the board. So I strongly suggest against using that type of wire, unless you're wiring large components. I mean, the legs of two. I would say if you're wiring the legs of two 603 packages or bigger, then do it. But if you do 0402, 0201, little leads, probe points, don't use those wires. Alright, so let me show you what some of the more common faults are on these boards, which is the 820-2530, the 820-2879, in terms of it not turning on. It's not turning on from the charger. One of the first ones that I look for is called the one-wire circuit. And I know that you people are going to go, well, how am I supposed to know what a one-wire circuit is? See, this is why you can do it and I can't. This is why it's mean that you charge money, because you know something I don't, and you have something I don't. And again, the point of this channel is to demystify everything. I want this to all seem like it's just roses and easy and addition and subtraction, because in a large sense, that's what it is. So let me zoom in a little more here. So here's what the first thing that I looked for, once upon a time when trying to troubleshoot these issues. So this is the charger. This is the DCN board itself. This is pretty much the charger. So you have PP18V5 DCN fuse. And by the way, let me explain what this is. When you see PP and then a V, this is just a voltage line. So this is pretty much just like, imagine electricity as a rail. Imagine a power line in a computer pretty much like this metal thing. So let's say this is 18 volts. Let's say this is an 18 volt line. You can have many different things going to the 18 volt line. Like I could have my tweezers powered off of 18 volts. This is such a bad example. I could have my screwdriver powered off of 18 volts. So you have one 18 volt line, but many different things are powered off of it and connecting to it. Think of the power, it's just like the power rails on a desktop computer. You have everything running off a 12 volt line. You have a lot of things that are going to run off of the 5 volt line and so on and so forth. So when you see this is just 18.5 volts. It says PP and V and underscores and all this confusing, intimidating crap. But that is just what it is. It's just confusing, intimidating crap. I don't know what the PP and the V are for. Again, you can laugh and make fun if you know what they are. I don't fucking know what they are, and frankly, I don't care because it doesn't really matter to me. What I did one day when I saw this is I just measured what was at this point so I could see what the fuck it was. And it said it was 18.5 volts. So I just thought, PP18V5, when I measure it, it's 18.5 volts. It's just an 18.5 volt line. See? Simple, demystified, very easy. Now, let's go on to some other things here. So now on all these boards where it wasn't actually charging, where it didn't see the charger, where it could not be powered off of the charger, on all of these boards, this was actually there. So I ignore that. And again, it's even there after this fuse. By the way, another thing. When you guys see that there are fuses on the boards and you're like, oh, what fuse is it when it doesn't run off the battery? What fuse is it when it doesn't run off the charger? Look at this. 24 volts, 6 amps. 24 volts, 6 amps. That is, I should be able to do this math, but I can't because I'm tired. 144 watts. This charger doesn't put out more than 85 or 90. You are never going to blow these. Seriously, you are never going to blow these fuses. I can power all these fucking lights above my table off of this fuse. I mean, I've never, not in 6 fucking years, seen a board where these fuses were blown. It doesn't happen. Something else is wrong. I'm sorry, it's not that easy. It's not that easy to solve the problem. No. And when the very rare case people go, can you just replace this fuse on my motherboard? I wish I had it in me to say, I will replace the fuse for $40, but if it doesn't work, I'm not giving your money back. Because I would have made so much money doing that. But yeah, it's not the fuse. So let's see what else we have here. We have this thing called Adapter Sense. See? Adapter Sense. Now again, this is coming from the MagSafe adapter. So, Adapter Sense. The computer doesn't have a green light when I plug the charger into it. It doesn't see the adapter. It doesn't sense the adapter. Maybe this is what I should be paying attention to, said my little brain. So let's see where this thing goes to. So this goes to U6900, which has something called sys1 wire coming out of it. Then there's this thing called SMC BC ACOC VCC, and that goes to U6901, which has something called SMC BC ACOC. Now, as I've said in other videos, the SMC is the system management controller. The SMC controls the power that's going to different parts of the system. It controls battery charging, it controls turning on and turning off, and all that hippy-happy crap. So this is an important circuit. So it senses the charger, and then it sends things and receives things and does things so that the computer knows that there's a charger attached. Again, what does one wire mean? What does ACOC mean? What does BC ACOC mean? What does one wire mean? Again, I don't care. I know what they mean now. But the whole point of this video series is simplifying things. I don't care. All I know is that this adapter send circuit goes over here. And let me check around and see what's there. Now, since I explained to you what that PPV crap means, it means that this is 3.42 volts as opposed to be over here. I know that I have something that I can now check for that I know about. You may not know what SMC BC ACOC means. You may not know what sys1 wire means, but you know that 3.42 volts is 3.42 volts, right? So now you have something you can measure for. Even if you're a moron just like me when I started out, you now have something you know to measure for. Now again, this is not what the problem was with this computer. It's not. I was actually hoping it was because I wanted to do a video demonstrating how to repair it because it's a very common fault. So what do? You should look here and see if that 3.42 volts is actually there, because very often it's not. And that's one of the ways that that's one of the simple faults that you can repair. So let me try to show you on the microscope. Hopefully this time I actually show you where you can see it, because before I was showing it to you where you could not see it. So I'm going to be moving this around. Again, as I said, I can't monitor the microscope camera in real time yet, so I have no idea what I'm showing you. The microscope camera can only see a small portion because it uses some kind of different lens than mine of the image. So this here is U6901, right? So I'm gonna move this around enough times that you can see it, because I want to make sure that you see it. And I'm gonna put my tweezers to the leg that's supposed to have 3.42 volts, so you can see what that is. Now I'm gonna move it around because I don't want to be fucked into doing another video when I realized that you couldn't see it in any of my camera angles. And if I do wind up getting it, and I notice that I only got it for like half a second, I'm actually gonna wind up probably just looping that video so you can see it. So the tweezers are pointing to 3.42 volts all the time. Now let me show you how you can cheat. If I move a little bit over to the right, there's going to be this component. I don't remember what it does. I honestly don't. And again, I don't care. I use my brain the minimal amount possible to solve the problem at hand, so that I have enough brain to do enough jobs over the course of a day to make myself and the staff and the business all a living. So if I don't have to use my brain, I don't turn it on. What I do know is that there's 3.42 volts over here, because I've measured for it before. So again, I'm going to move this around because I don't know what the viewable range of this microscope is, and I don't want the microscope cameras, and I don't want you to get fucked out of seeing something that I want to show you. So this is 3.42 volts right here. So you can move over here to where I said 3.42 volts is supposed to be, and you just run a little wire from there to over here. And one of the reasons that I actually think this is called the one-wire circuit is because you can always fix it using just one wire in the same place, because it always gets fucked the same way. So see, like in this thing, there's for example, this is kind of getting corny and off topic, but I like to come up with funny explanations for this, for the things that I see. So if one of the things that was in the 8202530 schematic was BAT, POSF, so I always used to think of that as battery, a piece of shit and fucked. And here I like to think of this as the one-wire circuit, because you can always fix it using just one wire. I never understood why they call it one wire. It's, it's a circuit that tells you that the charger is plugged in and good. But yeah, it is, and again, this is the typical fucking Apple. Like the point at which most people are going to spill water, the point right at the edge, is also the point that's ridiculously tiny, this tiny little non-reinforced trace, and it's also for a critical component. Typical fucking Apple. Like again, you'll see. So many spills. This right here is just corroded to shit. So you just run a little wire from over here to over here, and you fix your problem. So you get the wire, and you go from there to there without touching any of the crap in between, because if you touch the crap in between, you lose. But you run one wire from there to there, from there, right here, to here. And again, that's only if you don't have 3.42 volts showing up where I showed you it's supposed to show up. If that 3.42 volts is showing up, then don't do it. It's dumb to apply the wrong solution to your problem. It's dumb to it's dumb to apply the right solution to the wrong problem. And so just don't do that, because it shows that you're not using your brain. Let's go on to the other common fault here. Okay, by the chip that I replaced. Let's go back to that chip that I replaced here. Okay, so see over here where it says ACN, it's called ACN. Charger ACN. Now, this thing's not going to start doing whatever it needs to do so that the computer sees the charger and is happy unless it has voltage there. So right up here, here's the voltage from the charger. Here's the 18 volts from the charger. And it goes to this resistor, R7010, and then it goes here. Now then you go from ACN through this resistor, R7011, to ground. Now what is that? That is a voltage divider. Voltage dividers don't really get used to provide power to circuits. They usually just get used for signaling because they're insanely inefficient. They're very inefficient, but they're also very cheap. A resistor to Apple is probably it's less than a cent. So if you want to send a signal somewhere and you don't want to create a new power supply for it, and that signal does not take a lot of power, it just makes sense to do it with a voltage divider. So this comes out to like something like, I think, 4 volts. I should really know this off the top of my head. It's sad that I don't. But yeah, this should be about 4 volts. If it's not, one of 3 things is usually happening. A, U7000 or your ISL 6258 or 6259 is fucked. It has become fucked. And since it has become fucked, it is shorting the ACN pin to ground so that there's 0 volts here. B, R7010, this resistor, is bad. C, R7011 is bad. So you need to have the 3 or the 4 volts at the ACN pin, or else you're not going to have a green light on the charger. So this is something that you should check. Now let me show you where those resistors are. On the microscope, it's right under the chip that I put green stuff on. Where's the chip that I put? Here we go. Let's see. I'm still got to get used to my new microscope, man. It's a cool thing. It's just I'm used to moving something to a certain place to see it on my table, and now I have to move it to a different place, and that isn't fun. Alright, so again, I'm going to move this around a little just so you can see, because I don't know if you can. So it's these 2 resistors that are surrounded in the tweezers, and I'm moving it around the area because I want to make sure you see it. I don't want to do this video again because I fucked up one little thing. So yeah, those 2 resistors. I forget if it's on the left side or the right side that the 4 volts is supposed to show up, but yeah, that is going to go to one of the, I think the pin's around here somewhere, and that's pretty much that. Yeah. Now, the other thing that can happen if you're not getting a green light is that your SMC is fucked, and you really don't want your SMC to be fucked. It's U4900, because this is a chip. Okay, A, you can't buy this chip new. It's impossible. It doesn't exist. It does not exist. There are no such thing as new SMCs. If you go to buy this thing, which has all this crap on it, if you go to buy an SMC, you can buy a chip that's new that's not programmed, which you can never ever program from scratch, or you can buy one that somebody's selling that's used. Now, where do used SMCs come from? Let's think really hard. They come off of motherboards. Now, who would part out a motherboard that works? Because Apple motherboards can be sold for a lot of money, right? Well, they part out motherboards that don't work. And you know a great reason that a lot of Apple motherboards don't work? Dead SMC. So what you're going to do is you're going to buy this SMC that came off of a board that didn't work, most likely because the SMC was dead. And do you think these people test these things before they send them? Fuck no! It's a fucking little $4 or $5 chip. No way they're testing this crap. The ball, there's tons of balls under this. The balls are super small. And do you think Apple marks the component on the board so that you can actually put it back on there easily? Nah, no. So you really don't want to have an SMC issue. You don't. Because when you have SMC issues, it's a fucking nightmare. There are people that say that it's easy. They're much smarter than me. They're much faster than me. They're much more patient than me. I am not, which is why, again, fuck SMC issues. And the way that you usually get SMC issues is right by U7000. You have these data connections, right? You have this SM bus charger SCL, SM bus charger SCA. So let's see where those go. Okay, so see, these go to the SMC, right? Now, I said that U7000 is, or ISL6259, this chip is responsible for creating the 12 volts for the computer off of the 16 volts, right? And it also has these pins here where it's getting direct voltage from the charger. So like right here, charger DC in. This is literally just direct voltage from the charger. So that's pretty much 16, 18, or 20 volts, depending on the charger that you have plugged in. That's going straight to this chip. So if this chip fucks up and internally shorts, you could send upwards of 16 volts directly to the SMC. Like a chip that is used to 3 and 5, 3 volt signals is now getting 16 volts piped to it. That will fuck it up terribly, and it's just very, very bad. You don't want dead SMC. Dead SMC sucks balls. Dead SMC is shit. It's crap. It's dog shit. It's garbage. Fuck dead SMC. So that's pretty much that. I showed you the fault. I showed you the fault that caused this to not charge. I showed you it working off of the charger and off of the battery. I showed you how I came to my conclusion. Again, sometimes you're going to have to do some searching to find your problem. Sometimes you're going to have to do some serious searching. And sometimes it's really going to be there. It's just going to be a chip with a big hole on it. And, don't get me wrong, this is not going to work without me reattaching all this crap. Just because something has a hole on it doesn't mean you don't have any problems elsewhere on the board. I got lucky this time, because usually when your ISIL is exploded or expanded or fucked in some way, lots of other things are fucked, because this chip creates the voltage that everything else works off of. So if you have a problem with CPU V-core, you may just have a problem related to that power supply. You have a problem with, let's say, DisplayPort. That could just be related to that power supply. But this power supply creates power for everything else. This creates PP bus G3 hot, which provides power to every single other part of the machine. So usually, when this is fucked, you can have a lot of stuff upstream be fucked. So I was actually very, very lucky that I got away with just this being bad. And again, I really wish I could have done this live in real time. I hope to be able to do some of the newer ones live and in real time. It really, honestly, it goes back to the equipment working properly and me having the time, because I can't really walk you through things and put the camcorder up in the middle of the store when, there's 30 or 50 tickets a day and employees running back and forth and things of that nature. But hopefully you learned something from this. Hopefully it got you somewhere. Hopefully this little walkthrough of the things that can go wrong when you don't have a green light in your charger makes a little bit of sense to you and has helped you in some way. And that's pretty much that.